Something along those lines, I think, is probably what Chase said.
So Kahlan wants to know what he went to the house for, what he had to have so bad that they had to go risk being caught for. And he's like, my backpack. Naturally, she asks, well, what's in the backpack? He's like, well, it's my backpack. Don't worry about it. And for the first time, Richard's kind of silent about his private life. And he's been asking a lot of questions about Kahlan's. She's been, what I feel is truthful in some of it, but she's got a line, quite obviously, that she won't cross and she won't answer anything else. Nothing's really been asked of Richard other than, are you choosing to help me out? Which is a conversation in its own right. But yeah, this is the first time Richard's been asked a real personal question, and he shuts it down immediately. He's just like, well, I just need my bag. Just my thing.
He kind of offered her a way out earlier in the book by saying, hey, let me know if I'm going too far, and kick me if I'm getting too far into your personal life. And so when she starts asking questions, he says, you're gonna get kicked if you don't stop asking me questions. And I think that is a very clear indicator that he only gave her the leash that she was given to not tell him the truth, because he had secrets that he didn't want her to ask about.
So it's definitely expecting reciprocation.
Right. Like, I'm only going to not ask about your questions because I'm not going to fucking tell you if you ask about mine. I just don't know why he didn't give her the obvious answer, which is, I went for my knife, but I couldn't get to it, so I grabbed whatever I could.
I think that might be because it might have been a lie, at least from where he was coming from. I could see him being pretty panicked and just wanting to have his stuff. If you know you're not going back home tonight because there is somebody in your house and they're waiting for you and they probably don't have good intentions, because he knew that before he got into the house. He was probably thinking, all right, at this point, I'm not going in. Getting everything I can, though, because it's all I'm going to have. And I think not being able to grab his knife was a bummer, but I don't think that was at the forefront of his mind when he went in to grab his bag, because I think his bag probably has a lot of useful stuff in it that's still going to be needed while he's out of his house.
Do you think he wouldn't lie to Kahlan about that because he doesn't think he can without her knowing?
Maybe.
Because they don't know each other that well at this point. I feel like they've taken each other into each other's confidence. But at this point, if I were Richard, on top of not letting her take my bed, I would also not be opposed to just telling her, I went for my fucking knife. That's why I went back there, because there's dangers. Obviously, you have motherfuckers following you. So don't give me attitude about me going back for my knife, Kahlan. I grabbed what I could when I figured out there was somebody in my house.
Yeah, that would probably be the best answer to give. If the case was that you wanted to leave it vague and you just didn't want her to ask any questions, he did make it very clear, there's something I'm not telling you. Don't you want to know what that is?
And maybe Richard is just such an honest guy that he's not good at lying.
I like to think of Richard that way. I know we haven't gotten very far in the books. But, I mean, it doesn't ruin anything to mention here that Richard is like the best version of any one of us guys out there. He does everything the right way, or at least that's what his intention is. He's a really good dude. He is honorable through and through.
I guess I'll go with that. I'm okay with that.
Or at least you'd like to think that.
Yeah.
Every character in these books are definitely flawed in some way, Richard is not an exception to the rule, but he is still, like, he's a good dude. He's the guy that you would think of at your work and go, ah, yeah, he's a good dude.
He's a good dude, but he's human.
But he's human.
So Kahlan drops this, and he can tell that she's used to getting answers. So it bothers her, but she still drops it. So that gives her a little bit of credit that she's not going to push him in the same way that he doesn't push her for answers.
Right.
So Richard thinks about the fact that the books at his house were torn apart, it is definitely a weird thing, because normally a robber or a burglar doesn't tear apart your books unless there's something specific they're looking for. And in his mind, he's like, are they looking for my secret book? No, there's no possible way. There's only multiple people who know about that. The owner of the book, his dad, himself, the creature missing a tooth, and probably the barkeeper of any bar that any of those people have ever been to.
So it's not a secret at all, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that lots of people know about the secret book. But in his mind is a secret. So in his mind, there's no possible fucking way. Richard reaches up to swat a fly at this point. Kahlan stops him. Then she grabs his mouth and the back of his head and lowers him to the ground. He lets her know that he's going to obey her.
Nathan. You can call me Nathan. All right, lady, you're in charge. I get it.
It's a very sexual moment for being so tense.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Do exactly as I say. Don't move. Let the flies bite, or we're dead.
Now, this has happened earlier in this book already, where one of these two tells the other one of these two to do this super specific thing or behave in some certain way. And they don't ever question it. They just do it. So far, it's just been an exercise in, yeah, I'll do that thing that you tell me to do. And I'll do that thing you tell me to do. And now she's just grabbing him by the face and laying him on the ground. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Right in the middle of all this other stuff going on, he's totally willing to do that. Which, I mean, it's funny enough because he gets bit by a fly and she lays him on the ground and tells him to shut the hell up. He's not questioning what's going on, or if he is, what is he thinking is happening? This is pretty out of nowhere behavior, or at least it would be to me.
Either we're gonna do it, or something totally different is happening, and maybe I'm tripping still.
Maybe I'm way off base and this is not going nearly as well as I thought it was. I let you sleep on the chair. What's the big deal?
I was gonna give up the bed. What the fuck? So even though they can't move, we can move.
Oh, we can so totally move.
So I'm gonna move into a beer break.
Good one, JD.
Well, here we go. You know what we've been drinking tonight outside of the no rules, which we didn't think we were going to get to?
We got our hands on Dragon's Milk Reserve from New Holland Brewing Company. Dragon's Milk is a beer that I've been drinking for a little while. And what I like about it is that it's good, but every 3 months or so, they release small batches of it. And this one that I have here is Dragon's Milk Reserve Maple Oak. It's bourbon and maple syrup barrel-aged stout.
It's good stuff.
You guys, this is a good beer. It's strong, true. It's dark, true. But the maple oak, I'm a huge fan of.
What's the percentage on that one?
The percentage is 11%.
Shit. So, in case you've never drank either of the beers we've had tonight, both of them, when they pour out, are kind of thick.
Thick.
Real thick beers. But they set you real good. I don't know if you can tell from our podcast tonight, but they are real good beers. We've had some real nice, dark, thick beers. So, if you haven't had them, try and get your hands on some because they are damn good. So, I'm going to take a minute and pour myself and Nate another one. And we'll be back after this. And we're back. So, Richard heard some grunts. And then he saw it. Across the clearing. Green eyes. Green motherfucking eyes, Nate. I don't know if you know this about me, but green eyes are a thing.
Green eyes are totally a thing.
Magic and all that relates to green eyes. But we will allow that to go past. Even though Kahlan has them too. This thing stood on 2 feet, a head taller than Richard, and it weighed at least twice as much. He keeps nodding at Kahlan to let her know he's going to be quiet, even though the flies are biting and the blood is dripping down both of them.
So at this point, is it safe to assume that he's not tripping balls anymore? That this is actually happening?
Yes. I guess considering Kahlan is laying on top of him, unless it's a totally weird sex dream.
All right, fair enough.
This thing has round ears, fur, pink skin on its belly, and the flies are like sticking to its belly.
Gross.
I've seen really good art of this thing though. I don't know exactly if it was on the cover art or if it was fan art. I'm going to find it though and I'm going to post it.
Yes, we should definitely do that. Right now that we're talking about it, I don't think I've actually seen a solid image of a gar.
I feel like maybe I'm thinking of cover art from the second book.
There's the Mariswith in later books that there's a picture of that I can imagine, but not a gar.
I'm going to find what I'm talking about. I'm going to post it to the Instagram. If anybody out there has their own art that they want to share, I would love to see your interpretation of a long-tailed gar, or if you know of a good image that we could use, I would love to see it, give credit to the artists, because I know somewhere out there I've seen good art of them. Maybe I'm thinking of a short-tailed gar from later. If you have good art out there, make sure you send it to us. Moving on. It screamed towards them, ran towards them, and it grabbed a rabbit, smeared the rabbit gore on its belly. All of the flies biting Kahlan and Richard went back to it, and he ate the rest of it. He put it in his claws and ate it. This led me to believe that the gars can't really see or smell, though. It's all based on sound, right?
I mean, I think it would have to be. They're obviously not sensing him being right underneath him or being nearby. So it's not sight.
Right, because it ate the rabbit right above them, right?
Right. It was right above them. And I don't think it would really be smell, because if it was a blood thing, then once the flies bit Richard, the gar would have been able to smell him.
And it literally says that Kahlan's blood is dripping off of her.
Right. So I don't think it's just the blood that this thing is picking up on. I think it's pretty well got to be the hearing.
And that's why Kahlan's freaking out so much about him making noise.
Right. Because if you were to say ow or slap one of the flies, you'd make a sudden movement or a pretty crystal clear sound, and that gar would have you. You'd be done.
So he's stupid and he can hear well.
Yeah. I guess pretty much that's it. But just because hearing is his best sense doesn't mean that it's going to be ineffective at finding people.
Oh no, it's still really dangerous.
Right.
It lets Richard know that all the people who have been saying stuff's coming out of the boundary aren't lying.
Oh no, he definitely knows they're telling the truth now.
His first thought after seeing all this shit is he feels bad for Kahlan, though, that she has to live